Hey guys, welcome back and buckle in because I just found out that Disney and DreamWorks have beef. And it is literally like, I know I say this all the time, like, oh, it's the most craziest thing I've learned. But actually, this is really wild because I didn't know like Steve Jobs owned Pixar. The reason why DreamWorks has such weird, what seems like copies of Disney movies is because there was a disgruntled employee who like left and wanted to stick it to Disney. The Disney DreamWorks saga is just absolutely filled with pettiness and like betrayals, I guess, if you're on the side of Disney. But despite all of DreamWorks' spite, it gave us beautiful movies like Shrek. I really do like Shrek, actually. So I'm Reese, and this is Reese Gray Analyzes. I'm so excited that you guys decided to adventure with me today. On Reese Gray Analyzes, we dive into creations and experiences in art, media, music, and even video games, discover why we think the way we think, question what we believe, and learn something new. And guys, this beef is something new, definitely, to me at least. Maybe because I was like a wee lad when all of this beef was happening, like because I grew up with it, I wasn't aware of all of the drama, right? I just ingested all of the movies as they came, and I didn't care about the drama. Why? Adults fighting? Just stop. That's what I thought when I was little. Kind of still think the same way now, like adults fighting, just stop. So the drama begins because there was a man named Jeffrey Katzenberg, okay? And he's one of the founding members of DreamWorks. And he used to work at Disney, this Jeffrey Katzenberg guy. He worked on like Beauty and the Beast and, let me check my notes, and Little Mermaid and The Lion King in 1994. And then the original CEO of Disney passed away. And then Jeffrey Katzenberg was all like, that's my job. Isn't it Michael Eisner who was the new boss of Disney? And Michael Eisner was like, no, Jeffrey Katzenberg, it's nobody's job, because he ended up not filling the position at all because he wanted all the power, basically. But it sounds like Jeffrey kind of wanted a lot of power too. So Jeffrey and Michael were like butting heads, right? And I guess from Jeffrey's point of view, Michael Eisner was absolutely like a power freak and was just so meticulous and like breathed down people's necks, and he was very difficult to work with. Plus, he wasn't getting promoted, so he was just like, fine. If I'm not going to get promoted after our Frank Wells dearly departed us, then I'm going to dearly depart Disney. And so Katzenberg didn't just move on from Disney. He didn't just like move on to DreamWorks and, you know, decided to create something new and something on his own. No, he went and he was trying to beat out Disney out of spite. So while he was there, they were working on A Bug's Life, right? And so he was all like, okay, DreamWorks, we must create ants as quickly as possible. Get on it. And they actually did. And like they created it and released it 2 months before Bug's Life came out. But I didn't like either movie, so that's subjective, right? But a lot of people really loved Ants, and they really loved Bug's Life. I thought both were super scary, and I like wasn't allowed to watch Ants. And then when I looked back on Ants, they like cursed and stuff, so it was kind of like a anti-Disney movie, right? Ants was. Let me know if you prefer Ants or Bug's Life in the comments. But I didn't like both because when I was little too, I thought Bug's Life was scary. Like I was terrified. Like those grasshoppers and stuff were like bullies, and I was like, I can't watch this. I can't watch this movie. And so I watched freaking I had like VCRs of like the Hello Kitty movies and stuff. So and what was so fun too is that at DreamWorks they were like a dream team, right? Steven Spielberg was there and David Geffen was also there. And you might be like, yeah, I've heard of Spielberg, but who's David Geffen? This is another crazy thing. So like David Geffen was a music mogul to begin with, right? And he founded like legendary artists like Nirvana, the Eagles, Guns N' Roses, which is crazy. But he has even done that now because, you know, Hybe, Geffen, they made Cat's Eye. So this dude who works at DreamWorks too, like helped like found and fund Cat's Eye. Isn't that crazy? If you guys have seen that on Netflix, it's basically like this same company who like manages like BTS and like Le Sserafim and stuff. Like they also have this global girl group Cat's Eye, and like each member like speaks English and like another language, and so they're meant to like really be a global girl group that like doesn't have a boundary on who their audience is, right? And so that's David Geffen from Hive Geffen. Like that's just crazy to me. And he also does DreamWorks. And then as I'm reading this, all of this tea over Disney versus DreamWorks, I'm like, do like one group of men own everything? Like, because it gets even crazier. So there was like a continual battle between Katzenberg and like Disney as a whole after they like create their movies, because he continues to get sued because at the time, the CEO of Pixar was Steve Jobs, like Apple's Steve Jobs. So before Steve Jobs worked at Pixar, he like founded Apple, right? And got voted out of his own company because he was so difficult to work with. And then he was all like butthurt and stuff, and then went to Pixar to try and like regain his confidence and stuff, and just was the CEO of Pixar, because Pixar was more of like a technology company, as I understand it and researched it, more than it was like an animation company, which I didn't know. So like Steve Jobs sued Jeffrey Katzenberg because he was like, Ants is a copy of Bug's Life. And then Katzenberg was like, that's a coincidence. Sorry. And then Katzenberg was suing because he didn't believe that he got paid enough for Lion King 2. And Katzenberg from DreamWorks actually won that lawsuit, and he won $250 million for back pay on his work on Lion King. How much work did that man do in order to like get $250 million? I'm sure this can like logically, quantitatively be like assessed by like the profits of the movie, but emotionally I cannot accept the fact that one man got awarded $250 million for his work on freaking Lion King, guys. Just one. Throw just 1 million towards me, Jeffrey, please. But like all of that Steve Jobs stuff and departure and stuff, that can be its own video. I don't know if you guys want it. It is old, but it was news to me, okay? All of this Apple drama. So if you made it this far into the video and you want it, let me know. And so now it's been a couple years after Ants, and now we're at 2001 with the release of Shrek. So Shrek was basically like an anti-Disney manifesto movie, right? With like the princess who like, you know, wasn't a princess at all. But the most tea thing about Shrek was that the Lord Farquaad was supposed to mimic like Michael Eisner, like as a character, because he was like small in stature, just like, you know, like metaphorically, he's just like a small man who wanted so much control over everything. So that is interesting on that part. And I love Shrek. It's just so funny, and I love their take on like satirizing like nursery rhymes and like the formula of making like a feel-good Disney movie and like make fun of it. I think it was really clever and smart and cool of like DreamWorks to do. So there are other like coincidences too, but none of them landed as well as like Shrek, and then of course like Ants too. So like these movies that didn't land as well, that were like kind of not copying but like a parallel or competition to Disney movies. So I have a little list here. So we had the release of Madagascar, which was Disney, and then DreamWorks released The Wild. I didn't like The Wild either, but Madagascar was okay. It's not something like I go back to, but Madagascar is definitely has the better characters, right? And then we have Shark Tale in 2004, by DreamWorks, and then we have Finding Nemo by Disney. And I don't know if anyone in their right mind would prefer Shark Tale over Finding Nemo. Finding Nemo makes me cry every time, and like I know exactly what's gonna happen. They find Nemo, and I feel so stressed every time they have to find Nemo, guys. So, but if you do like Shark Tale, leave it in the comments so I can report you for abuse in the comments. So like as capitalism does, you know, it creates competition, and that was a really good thing. It came competition and spite, you know, create some pretty cool stuff. So stay bitter, guys. Stay bitter and show your enemies what for. That's the lesson of today. And then just as a little aside too, like you think like, oh, well, yeah, there's Universal Studios and then there's like Disney World and Disneyland that are like in the same cities too. Like, are those like made from competition too? But even though Disneyland was its own like utopia, it was meant to like be this utopian city, Universal predates Disney because Universal had their like studio tours, because Universal was like a established TV and movie like studio company. So those tours, if you've ever been to Universal, like you like ride a bus and you go around all the studios and see like different movie sets and stuff. Like in the beginning, those used to be like walking tours and you'd walk around and see the studios, but now they're on buses. But yeah, it kind of like grew more competition wise, because you know how Disney rides cater more towards like stuff that all ages can ride, like this slow little boat stuff and stuff. So they had rides that catered more towards like older kids and adults. Like The Mummy goes really, really fast. Like Jurassic Park as well is like a thrill ride. Like Revenge of the Mummy, and they also have the Hulk coaster ride too. So a lot of like thrill rides too. You know, they're both of the ride vibes though, they're so different, and like I can't even say like one park is better than the other because they're just two completely different experiences. And I'm so glad that we have like both to exist and both that are so beautifully different. But in a way, I do like the land building of Universal more, just because I saw like the Super Mario Land and it really, really looks like you're walking into a video game, and that was done incredibly well. But that's subjective too, because the new Star Wars land, no doubt, is beautiful, but I haven't watched one Star Wars things ever in my life. But even if I didn't, like, I still really appreciate and love the artistry that goes into it. The one ride, like where you're like in a puck, right, and then you like slide across like in like space or whatever, but the other ride where you like tap at controls on like in a spaceship, I was very confused of what my objective was, and maybe I just like didn't listen carefully enough. But when I ride a ride, I'm not expecting to follow directions. Like I'm just like, what do you mean? Like I have motive and like instruction, like what? I was so thrown off, and then like I had to press buttons. I was very nervous, but thankfully when I went, it was just like a bunch of like children, like 10 and under, like in the ship too, and they just looked like they were having fun. But I was like messing it up, I'm pretty sure, but I didn't mess up their fun, so it's okay. So I hope you guys enjoyed this little adventure through like DreamWorks and Disney beef, basically, and it's just a lot of fun when I found that out, and I just had to share with you guys my shock. And let me know if you want me to dig and dive deeper into any of this, because I happily will. Whew, there's a lot to talk about, but we all know that Nemo is the best movie ever. Okay, guys, love you. Bye.